You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. The Winnipeg Youth Orchestras continue to share the power of music despite a year of challenges. Through virtual rehearsals, they've put together a series of online performances, and to hear more about what the Youth Concert Orchestra has done, we've reached Conductor Andrea Bell. Hello, Andrea.
Hi, Simon. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Welcome back to Classic 107. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it was just over a month ago that we heard about the Youth Symphony Orchestra's online offering, and now the Concert Orchestra has prepared a virtual piece. Tell us a little bit about the ensemble and how it differs from the Youth Symphony Orchestra.
Right. So the youth orchestra that I conduct is one of the three Winnipeg Youth Orchestras. Mine is the middle orchestra. So it's the Winnipeg Youth Concert Orchestra. It's a full symphony orchestra, and there's right now we've got about 32 members. It was a little smaller this year, understandably, but it's a lovely group, and kids age range is about 11 to 17, so it's a big age range. And yeah, we have been rehearsing virtually since I think our last rehearsal was at the end of October. So it's been virtual since then. So we've been trying to come up with some cool projects to keep things interesting. And so our latest project is we just finished a virtual ensemble of my students playing the Badinerie from Bach's Orchestral Suite No. 2.
So we're going to hear a little snippet of that to end this conversation. But before we get there, I want to chat a little bit more about the virtual rehearsals. What's that been like for you as the conductor?
It's been a challenge.
Heard that before this year.
So, yeah, like it's like anything else, right? You just learn as you go. So it's been great seeing the kids every week, but it's certainly not what the students signed up for. So I try not to feel too guilty about it, because it's definitely not what anybody had expected. Things started off so nicely at the beginning of the year. We were all socially distanced and ready to go. And since we were mostly string players, it worked quite nicely. But yeah, so we've been rehearsing, playing along with recordings, playing along with click tracks to try to, to set up this virtual ensemble. Lots of listening. We've been having lots of great guests come on. Garth Lee came on and was telling the kids how he's making instruments. And we had a composer come on last week. We've got another virtual project that's coming up. And so we were chatting with the composer from New York City. And so the kids had lots of questions for her, and that was awesome. So there's been neat stuff like that we wouldn't have been able to do. So yeah, so there's lots of cool things happening, but it's not business as usual for sure.
No, of course, but it sounds like you're making all sorts of new ways to keep the students engaged and invested in what they're doing. Now, I'm curious for you. You're a busy cellist and teacher around town, and you work with a number of different orchestras. I'm thinking back to our conversation a year ago, how naive we were then with the Mennonite Community Orchestra. What keeps you coming back to this age group, as you've been with the concert orchestra since '97, right?
Yeah, it's been a long time. I'm the longest running conductor of the Winnipeg Youth Orchestra.
Well,
and the Youth Orchestra is old too. Like it's like 100 years old. So yeah, I've been involved for a long time. And I was also, I was handed a cello when I was 12 at school. And I was just like, this is the greatest thing ever. Immediately joined youth orchestra, and I was in youth orchestra all the way through junior high and high school, and left for a few years for me to go to school, and then came back and started conducting it. So I feel like I was my cello life has been youth orchestra the whole time, whether I was in it or conducting it.
Yeah,
so it's pretty special.
Yeah, very strong personal connection for you.
Yeah.
And it was also pointed out to me that Winnipeg Youth Orchestras are more than a group of like-minded individuals passionate about music. And in many cases, it's literal family. Both you and your husband, Dan, are involved with the group as conductors. And then within the concert orchestra itself, there are a number of family connections. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, there's so many, like, it's hilarious that Dan and I both conducted. And I remember at one point somebody was saying, well, that's crazy. You can't have, you guys are married. You both can't conduct youth orchestras. And we were both like, you don't understand how important youth orchestra is to both of us, because we both grew up through the system. It is absolutely integral to our life as musicians. And our children went through youth orchestra. And all of our friends' children, like all of our music, all of us music geeks, we like to fondly call ourselves, all of our symphony friends, all their children are in youth orchestra right now too. So there's another big wave of musicians, kids coming through, and all these lovely, talented kids. So it's really it's awesome. It's really quite a cool group.
Yeah, I mean, how special is that? So just
Yeah.
before we hear a little bit of their playing, I do want to ask you, I mean, you mentioned the number of players that are in the concert orchestra this year, down from typical years, but just over 30 players.
Yeah.
Late last week, the province announced that there would be some changes moving forward. The band would be allowed back into the rehearsal room. Is this going to have an effect for you and the concert orchestra?
Yes, we are so excited. We're rehearsing this week on Thursday together. Dan, the senior orchestra, is rehearsing tonight together in person. So that's huge. That's huge. And I think you talked with Ross Brownlee, who's the
We
band
did, yeah.
teacher at the school I teach at, Westgate Mennonite Collegiate. We've been able to rehearse strings all year. Who knew strings were so safe? So we were able to rehearse since September. So that's the only thing I've been doing in person all year is the strings at Westgate. So it's so exciting that band's allowed back in, and there's, we've got all the precautions and stuff. So it's very exciting.
What have you heard from the musicians themselves? What have you heard from the students?
I'm sorry, Simon, you cut off for a
Nope,
second.
that's all right. Good old lag. What have you heard from the musicians, from the students themselves?
They're so excited. It was our Zoom rehearsal last week. I said, okay, guys, I've heard we can do it back in person. You should see the hands flying. Everybody's just like, freaking out. There are some students that, are still going to join us on Zoom, and that's always an option. I think that is the coolest part about having had this experience with being on Zoom, is everybody's very comfortable doing it. So it's like, hey, grandma's living at home. We don't feel comfortable coming to rehearsal until everybody gets vaccinated. Hey, that's great. Join us on Zoom. It's totally easy to do. So that's nice. I think there's about 4 kids that are still going to join us on Zoom this week.
Yeah, all about, again, keeping that connection alive and
For sure.
making the music, which is just so encouraging. Andrea, thanks so much for taking the time today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I'm excited to share this particular recording, Bach's Badinerie. Do you want to set it up? Tell us a little bit about this piece.
Well, we've been working on the whole Bach orchestral suite number 2.
Right.
Our group this year is all strings, like full strings, and we had 2 flutes and 1 oboe. So I kind of was racking my brain to figure what would be best with these kids, and I thought, this is too cool. This is a good project. This is not an arrangement, so this is a very challenging piece for us, and it was really exciting. The kids really love this movement. I still love playing this piece. It's still challenging for me. So.
And so here it is, the Youth Concert Orchestra performing Bach's Badinerie.